Yeah, we're on cricket.
Oh, great, we're back. Thank you. God, I forgot I found it's half an hour. Oh, there we
So
go.
we'll see if it pays off.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, colleagues, we're back. We've got quorum, and we are on item 14.1, Councillor Austin Playing Field Strategy Update, Cricket Field Site Selection. And Councillor Austin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, colleagues, for having this here today, and our staff that have stuck around all day for the item that appeared originally first on the agenda. So, thanks everyone for your patience. I have a couple comments, and I do have a request for supplemental report on this one. I'm going to just start by saying, this actually really should be a good news story. We have $1 million from the province to help us out on situating cricket, and there's a real need in this municipality for cricket. We've seen that growth in the leagues that they have, and they're jammed, right? Like, it was identified in the playing field strategy. And so in our staff in casting around settled on the Dartmouth Common, being a fairly round space in a central location, access to transit. So I get why the site was selected. It's run head on into resistance from the baseball world, who have concerns about their own field usage because this would be repurposing. And I acknowledge that the staff report does have at least one replacement field up there in Dartmouth North, which is not currently programmed. But at this point, we've heard very opposite sort of things about time out there that's available for baseball, softball, and the demand versus what we have available in field space. So I really feel like we need to have a supplemental report to get at that. The other kind of piece that I want to look at, and this has been raised by the baseball associations, and staff have some objections, but I think we need to flesh it out a little bit more, is why can't we share, right? Why can't we build a shared space? And so I'd like to see a little bit more analysis of that. And then the last piece in my supplemental is I want to look at Green Road, which is currently a designated encampment site. But our intention is to eventually not have any more designated sites. And so the Green Road site used to be a ball diamond. That's what it was. And so one of the things I want to look at is whether or not there's the possibility of bringing that ball diamond back, because then you get to keep the historical significance that goes around the Dartmouth Arrows and the attachment of baseball to this particular section of Dartmouth. So I want to look at all those things. So, I'll go ahead and I'll put my supplemental on the floor. Apologies, I'm just trying to find it here. Okay, I move that Halifax Regional Council request a supplementary report on the cricket pitch on the Dartmouth Common that includes 1, an analysis of the potential for a shared use facility for cricket and baseball softball, 2, an analysis of baseball softball field usage and availability in Dartmouth, and 3, the potential to rehabilitate the former Green Road Diamond into a functional playing field again after the designated encampment closes.
Second.
Thank you, colleagues. And so the only last piece that I want to add is that this has attracted a lot of attention. The vast majority of the feedback that has come my way has been very good and very respectful. The baseball associations, a lot of them have emphasized, that they're trying not to say, like, there's not a need for cricket, right? So the vast majority of communication has been really good. But I feel like I'd be remiss if not to call it what it is, that some of what I've seen on social media in particular, there are a few who have taken this into a bit of a nasty place, a bit of, what I would characterize some racism aimed at this, which is an ugly sort of thing. And all I would say to that is there's a demand for cricket in our community because people who are part of our community, no matter where they are from, want to play cricket. And so as a municipality, this is our business to try and satisfy those different needs out there. So I have nothing further at this time. I had the chance to staff. I answered a lot of my questions on Friday, but I do think a supplemental is needed here. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, and colleagues, I'll just ever so gently put my hand on the scale here. We have about 20 minutes before the public hearing, and there are 4 speakers on the board, so maybe we can get through this. Okay, with that, Councillor Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Austin, for putting this on the floor. So, you know, I see the passion in baseball. I'm a big baseball guy myself, and played the game and played hardball, softball, not very well, but I played it, and coached and umpired. So baseball has been a big part of my life, and I get the passion for baseball. You know, it's funny, on the weekend, I was at Sale JP, and I spoke to so many people from across the country and around the world, and when they asked about the city, I told them about how proud I was of the city on the weekend, but I also talked about almost every person. What I'm most proud of our city in the last 10 years is the diversity that exists in our city now that was not there before. And part of that diversity is you see, you know, people from Pakistan and Bangladesh and India and around the world that play cricket. And so now there's that demand of cricket. And I go and I tell people, we're looking at a cricket pitch. Well, that's a good news story. Now, we have to be careful. The perception out there is we're taking from one group to give to another, and that's not true. And the challenge with this topic right now, there's a lot of lack of information out there. And we all know when there's a lack of information, people fill in the blanks themselves. So we need to provide the information. I think Councillor Austin's motion will help to do exactly that. I do have some, I don't know if I need to friendly amendments to it, and so there's a couple other things I think we should include. You know, one of the reasons why there's so much passion for this Dartmouth Commons is the designation of the Arthur H. Merrick, and he was very instrumental in bringing baseball to Dartmouth for sure. And his name is there on a plaque. So whatever we end up doing, if we change what we're doing now, I want to make sure that stays, or maybe we could even enhance it with a piece of artwork or whatever, even if it is turned to a cricket pitch. So I don't know if that needs, if that's a friendly or not. And on all that, with the supplemental funding, the opportunity of community use, when there's not if it is turned into a cricket pitch, you know, does the school still get to use the field, or the community come out and throw the ball if they want, even though it's not being used for cricket? There's a lot of questions around community use. And the other piece is, and Councillor Austin alluded to Green Road, and making sure the supplementary report comes back and saying we are looking at other fields that have indeed designated that we can bring back. And so to make sure the separate report also includes what fields we may be adding lights to, what fields we may be that are de-designated that we're now going to bring back up by adding fences and pitching mounds and so on. Also to come back with the current information, the data that we have, the data of how the Dartmouth field is being used now, what days of the week, the number of hours, and also to bring back in that sub-report what's the potential usage of cricket. The challenge I hear from the cricket folks now is they want to program more, but they don't have the fields to do it. For example, women are forced to play the game in a gym. Well, that's not fair. We need more space, more designated, say, for cricket, so the women and the youth can play the game. So that's why the importance of this pitch. So I don't know if Councillor, I look at you, is that needed, and staff also? Is that stuff? I don't know if staff can just come forward for a second just to acknowledge whether or not that can be added to the supplementary funding, and if it's friendly for Councillor Austin. So thank you for coming. I think Councillor Austin is comfortable with it being a friendly. Do you need that added, or was that an automatic to add what fields we're adding lights to? Can the community use it? Can the Arthur Merrick designation be kept? Can we add to that? That kind of stuff, yeah.
Below policy planning coordinator with Parks and Recreation. Yes, we can include that in the staff report. We'd be happy to.
Okay, so you don't need an amendment to a motion. Good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor, for bringing this forward.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Councillor Kent, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I too am getting a lot of emails, being a Dartmouth councillor as well, and I think that the overarching themes have been similar to what has been expressed around the importance of the baseball fields and their sense that they do not have adequate access to fields as it is now. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that's something that maybe could be addressed. In the supplemental. I'm glad that Councillor Mancini mentioned the Arthur Merrick Field. His grandson, Jeff Merrick, wrote a very nice email to us and really articulated the importance of the historical piece. And Councillor Cuddle mentioned someone that we were fortunate enough to hear at FCM. I can't remember her name, but it was related to Fogo Island in Newfoundland, which is the importance of place. And place means things that are important, relevant. Who was it? Cedar Cobb, yes. The importance of place. And this just made, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to hear her because it was so right. It's about the importance of these significant places in our lives. And it's often historical knowledge that we end up bringing forward when we talk about the cultural and the significance and the experiences that have been had there that help shape the cities, so and the communities that we all represent. So I'm happy to support this. I do think we need to. I think we need take a good look at whether or not we want to change that particular field into cricket. I'd rather see, and I certainly support cricket, the evolution of cricket and development of infrastructure for them. But I'd like to see something maybe in an area that is not overtaking something that's already utilized right now. So I'll leave it there, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Purdy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for this. I like the idea of the supplemental, slowing things down, having more information come back. I do realize we need a cricket pitch, if not more than one, in our municipality. We have user conflict of interest happening on the Cole Harbour Common right now with lots of cricket happening and the track. And anyway, we're coming up with some mitigation strategy for that area. So it is necessary, but I guess I would like to see kind of in addition to this supplemental, looking for other areas where cricket can be situated, and even not even mixed use, but having their own pitch that is theirs. As I guess kind of piggybacking on what Councillor Kent said, like historical memorial sites commemorating men and women in our history, in our cities, in our communities that have made such significant investment and a difference. And I have his grandson living in my district. We've heard from his sons, his grandchildren, the gentleman whose field this is named after him. And I just wanted to highlight some of his influences that he has had in our community, that his children have raised, and also to point out that he is going to be inducted into the Maritime Sport Hall of Fame this July, so next month on the 15th, for his outstanding leadership in Dartmouth minor baseball, and to have a baseball field in his honor to be taken and converted to another sport. I don't know, it doesn't seem right to me, even though acknowledging we do need cricket. We have a high demand for that. He was a World War II Navy veteran. He was the founder and president of the Dartmouth Minor Baseball Association, worked tirelessly over many years for the youth of Dartmouth to bring the game to all. He was a volunteer for 40 years with the Dartmouth Natal Day Committee, and he was in his 25th year as parade marshal at the time of his passing. He played a major part in the management, development, and front office operations for our province's championship Nova Scotia Seniors men's baseball team in the very first Canada Summer Games held in Halifax, Dartmouth in 1969. He was a Dartmouth Citizen of the Year in 1982. And in 1995, the name of the Dartmouth Commons was formally changed by the Dartmouth City Council and then Mayor Gloria McCluskey to the Arthur H. Merrick Memorial Ball Diamond, which stands today as a testament to this gentleman's dedication and hard work. So I would like to see a different location. I know this isn't a vote on council whether this location is or isn't, but I don't support this particular field being converted. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Steele, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll be really quick. I do have a question for staff, just in terms of this strategy. How much I want to know sort of how much consultation took place with the Baseball Association, because it does seem like they just realized that this was happening, but my understanding is there's been some consultation. And then the second question is Councillor Austin's supplementary report. Will this delay moving forward? I'm curious about that as well. So.
Lambalilla Policy Coordinator, Parks and Recreation. So to your first question, on the scale of public participation, this was a situation that it was more on the inform side. We notified the baseball groups, all the user groups in March, and have had some discussion with them. Cricket, and I'll just say cricket is a very, very large field, very, very difficult to cite. There weren't a lot of options to come forward with for alternatives. Consultation also happened with adjacent property owner being the HRCE school board, which, to answer Councillor Mancini's earlier question, still available, no matter what the sport field is used for, still available for the school children to use. With respect to a delay, the timeline that we're dealing with is kind of the general plan, design, build. So through detailed design, while that's occurring, because there's no change to use of the field until fall 2028, trying to give as much advance notice to the user groups and trying to make upgrades to other ball diamonds to find locations where the displaced user groups can be adequately served with our service provision. That's something that we can explore this and come back with a supplementary report during that time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hensby, please.
Thank you much, Mr. Mayor. And yes, I also heard from the Merrick family. I know members of the family for a number of years, and share the concerns and comments raised by Councillor Purdy in the email she read about the history of Mr. Merrick and stuff, and it should be maintained and honored. In regards to ball fields, this is not just an urban situation. I can tell you right now, I have battles and for field time in rural areas. I've been saying to my staff, you build me 3 fields, I can close 6, because I have so many small rural fields that are not being utilized anymore because it's too far to travel. The umpires don't want to go there and stuff like that. So I need to talk about consolidation of ball fields, make some baseball campuses in strategic areas to help facilitate the demand for ball field. The other issue is softball versus hardball. The Blue Jays run last year certainly made a lot more excitement for hardball, and a lot more kids are enrolled. And now we got to make sure our baseball fields have pitcher mounds on them. Something that softball doesn't have, but hardball requires. Plus, the dimensions of the field need to be changed and adjusted. We just did that last year to the Cheviot ball fields. Took a number of years to get the funding together, but it finally got done. Greatly appreciate it. Now, if I can put a set of lights on it, I can certainly extend the play a lot longer. So I'm hoping that part of this review of fields, let's identify those fields that can be utilized for hardball, has the dimension capacity, but if we have the lights, so we can extend the utilization of those fields and perhaps have the youth play during the daylight hours and have the adults play during the evening hours. But to move forward, I think we need to, I'd like to know where we are with our outdoor recreational facility strategy. I thought there's something that's supposed to be coming forward soon. I'd like to know where that stands, and this maybe be a part of that process. But could I get clarification on when we anticipate that report to come forward?
So through the mayor to the councillor. Yes, we are looking at overall system improvements across all facility types. There is a report tracking to August for CPED to talk about the scoping of the parks and outdoor recreation facilities plan. So that will be something that will be coming forward.
Thank you. Councillor Gillis, please.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. As a former baseball coach, I know the challenges of trying to get field time. Let me tell you, before I was elected to council, I spent 10 years coaching youth baseball in the LWF system. Often playing late at night and early morning with young kids. There's just not enough field time everywhere. I'm in support of the baseball field there and maybe having a look somewhere else for a cricket pitch. I, like you guys, have heard from the Merrick family. His son, Clayton, lives in my district, is a proud beaver banker. And they have reached out with their wishes to maintain that this be a baseball diamond. Like I understand from reading the report, I don't think there's another place where we can put a cricket pitch. However, I am offering up Lower Sackville. If you guys want to find space for the cricket pitch, I'll be happy to take it out in Lower Sackville. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gillis. Moving to Councillor Hartling, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just as a point of clarification, and forgive me, it's been a really long day. You did not explore breaking new ground to develop a cricket pitch. You were only looking at repurposing?
To the mayor, to the councillor. No, we looked at every available park space that we have that is of adequate size. In the playing field strategy, there is an action that we're looking at lands for a field complex. So that's still something that we're scoping, but the cost to develop breaking new ground, greenfield development, becomes very challenging in terms of site clearing, site preparation. We'd be talking at a scale of an envelope of money for the capital expenses that this money from the province just would not cover. So to do something in kind of to the scale of what the timeline, the playing field strategy has directed it be done, that wasn't seen as a viable option for establishing a dedicated cricket field in the short term. In the long term, we are looking at our land holdings for what we can do with a multi-field complex.
And can you help me understand, because obviously the report isn't out, so like your outdoor playing field strategy, when you talk about that being long-term, how long-term? Like you're saying this wouldn't present until 2028 is when you're thinking this cricket field might be done. If we were to look at that field strategy, how far into the future would it be before you'd find a cricket field there?
I might look over my left shoulder. I believe the short, medium, long-term actions, and I don't have the strategy in front of me, but I believe the more longer-term actions are looking out until like the 10, 20-year horizon. So for a field complex of multiple ball diamonds and other sports fields on a greenfield site, that is a longer-term action. So that's not something that we could operationalize before fall 2028.
Okay, and again, just to make sure that I understand, the money coming from the province is specifically for a cricket field?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you. I just want to echo some of the other comments that have been made about kind of an increase in demand for baseball fields. I know out in District 11, I've seen the youth, the Spryfield Minor Softball Association go from 80 kids to over 250 kids in the last 2 years in terms of kids signing up for baseball. So, I mean, we know we're in a tricky situation where demand is increasing dramatically, not just through, I think, our population growing, but also in a lot of, families, like kind of having more families and young people in our city. So we are going to be in a conundrum in relation to, demand exceeding resources. And I do think it's something that we're going to have to seriously figure out moving forward, because the cost is, I think, talking about PI, they can just go and create a cricket pitch on a field in a day. For us, it's a lot more expensive and a lot more complicated. But yet we seem to have, there's a lot of expectations. So just noting that this is going to be a growing issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Saint Amand, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm certainly going to join the chorus of councillors looking for some solutions for cricket players. Certainly the demand is outstripping the supply on that front as well. But we're also facing the fact that some of the supply is in itself being limited by some of our approaches. So, while this particular staff report was looking at the scale of a cricket pitch that meets competitive needs, I feel like there are maybe some missed opportunities that we can explore to provide for smaller scale opportunities. The staff report does note the different sizes that are possible for different levels of play. Most of us we'll go on to our local school field or a soccer field that's attached to one of our facilities with our kids and just play a little pickup game. And that's pretty easy to do when the field isn't being used. But we don't have that facility for every sport. And so if there's an opportunity for us to consider different approaches to the utilization of our public spaces, and in particular our fields, that may be a way to address at least the casual players in a way that might not require a significant investment, might not require divestiture of specific locations that are dedicated to particular sports. I'm not interested in displacing other sports if we don't need to. I'm interested in finding ways to use the assets that we have to service the broad community and the diverse community that we currently serve. And the longer they're left without a place to play, the more complicating it gets for that community. And I've had that conversation with our parks leadership team to see what they might be able to do within their current purview, and certainly as they're looking at their overall sports field strategy, I'm looking for recommendations to come back on that, but I wonder whether that is a lens that might be applied in this supplementary report as well, even if only casually.
Through the mayor to the councillor, absolutely.
Thank you.
And we'll have to leave it there and come back after the public hearing. So we'll move on to item 12.1, Housing Accelerator Fund or half surplus lands for affordable housing pilot program. The process will be that we will start with a staff presentation and questions of clarification from members of council to the staff presenter. The public hearing will open and the applicant will be given an opportunity to present. After that, we'll go to the public hearing speakers. Speakers can participate for a maximum of 5 minutes. Please keep your comments respectful, on topic, and directed to the chair. The clerk will announce when you have 30 seconds remaining and when your time is complete. After everyone on the list has been given an opportunity to speak, I will call 3 times to see if there are any additional speakers. Speakers can participate in person, or if they had pre-registered by the deadline, you had the option to participate using Zoom. There is no deadline to speak in person as long as you are present in the chamber when I call for speakers. Madam Clerk, can you confirm whether any correspondence has been received for this public hearing?
Yes, Mayor Fillmore, correspondence. Gosh, what's correspondence?
Okay. We'll just pause for a minute while you figure that out.
Sorry about that, Mayor Fillmore. No correspondence was received for this item. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. We'll start with the staff presentation. I see we have Greg Honeywell here to present. And Greg, when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Greg Honeywell. I'm a planner with HRM's Housing Accelerator Fund team, and I'm here to give a presentation on the outcomes of the surplus land for affordable housing pilot program. So this slide just provides a bit of overview of what happened. HRM's contribution agreement with the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation commits to the Housing Accelerator Action Fund action plan in return for $79.3 million. The surplus land pilot program was created as a part of this action plan. A call for applications was issued to the community housing sector for 4 surplus parcels designated for affordable housing by Regional Council. One of the applicants was Rooted Community Development Partners, who submitted a proposal for the surplus site located at 48 Pinecrest Drive in Dartmouth. So just to provide a bit of the legislative and policy context, the HRM charter states that the municipality may sell or lease property at a price less than market value. A resolution to sell or lease property at less than market value shall be passed by at least 2/3 majority. And any less than market value sale of municipal property valued over $10,000 requires a public hearing. So Administrative Order 50 is the administrative order that oversees the disposal of surplus lands. So under this administrative order, surplus properties categorized as affordable housing shall be disposed of through a call for submissions open to eligible nonprofit organizations with submission requirements and program criteria established by the Director of Planning and Development or their designate. So just to provide an overview of the parcels that we selected, we chose 4 parcels from the list of surplus parcels that have been designated for affordable housing. The existing surplus parcels designated for affordable housing were scored based on 4 broad criteria. These are site condition, regulatory environment, the local availability of affordable housing, and access to amenities and transportation infrastructure. So site condition would often refer to the physical characteristics of a site. This would be whether or not there's a water course, if there's a slope that can possibly inhibit development. The regulatory environment primarily reviews the land use bylaws and the development potential through that lens. The local availability of affordable housing compares housing statistics for the neighborhood against HRM to determine whether or not there is a demonstrable need for affordable housing within the area. And access to transportation and amenities just measures the location of the site in relation to sites such as hospitals, schools, grocery stores, bus stops, and future bus rapid transit stations. So the call for submissions was issued on July 7th of 2025. Applicants were restricted to nonprofit organizations, and proposals were required to include affordable rental properties, and development must have been as of right. We had 3 categories of evaluation criteria that we used, and these were viability, affordability, and social equity, with the majority of the weight given to the viability of these projects. So to provide an overview of some of the challenges for affordable housing on surplus land, land use bylaw needs to allow for sufficient density to access funding, and typically this is 5 units or more, according to the Affordable Housing Development Fund from Nova Scotia. There's ideas that we should rezone these properties before dispersing to reduce the pressure on the non-market housing providers. And we've learned that lower density limits really limits the viability of mixed market models that include both a mix of market and nonprofit housing within the same development, as they tend to require more units. Lot frontage and size were seen to be a barrier, as parcels need to be of sufficient size to support this density. And small lot and frontage can limit the subdivision of potential further limiting density. The development potential of parcels may also be hindered by encumbrances, including liens, leases, easements, encroachments, and restrictive covenants. And we also need to take a look at the infrastructure of these sites to make sure that they have access to water, wastewater, road, and some sites may also have contamination. Going forward, the remaining 15 properties categorized as affordable housing face challenges, and these include challenges related to infrastructure, zoning, and lot size. The undisposed of parcels will be retained until they are prepared for affordable housing use, should a permanent program be established. For the future, we want to consider the implementation and resourcing for a permanent program for affordable housing, or for surplus land for affordable housing. We want to review the full list of surplus parcels and identify those with affordable housing potential, and establish best practice criteria for rural communities as well as site preparation. So I'm just going to provide some slides on the recommended project. The applicant is Rooted Community Development Partners, who submitted an application for 48 Pinecrest Drive in Dartmouth. They want to consolidate 3 adjoining properties to build a 22-unit apartment building that features 11 affordable units. The affordable units will be listed for 30% below average market rent, with 2 units being reserved for women and children fleeing domestic violence. The applicant is also working with a consultant on achieving their Rick Hansen Gold certification. So Rooted Community Development Partners was founded in 1981 as Dartmouth Nonprofit Housing Society. Since then, they've created over 1,000 housing units and successfully completed multiple projects of similar size and complexity. They've recently built 18 affordable units through the Provincial Surplus Land Program on Circation Drive. So there are some conditions on this land transfer. The parcel will be sold for $1, and the sale will be conditional on the applicant securing funding and development approval. A buyback agreement will be in place for a term of 25 years. This will ensure that construction starts within 30 months of the closing date, and HRM will have the opportunity to buy back the land if the land is not, if affordable housing is not built as their applicants stated, if they tried to transfer the land to a third party, if the applicant ceases to exist, or if the applicant ceases to be a nonprofit. So here's the recommendation. It is recommended that Halifax Regional Council approve the sale substantially on the terms and condition outlined in the report, and authorize staff to negotiate and execute on behalf of the municipality an agreement of purchase and sale for the conveyance of the subject property, and direct the mayor and municipal clerk to execute on behalf of the municipality the deed, buyback agreement, and any other associated documents required to effect the conveyance of the subject property. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Greg. Excellent presentation. Colleagues, are there any questions of Greg? Questions of clarification? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Oh, yeah, here are a couple. Councillor Hinch, please.
I just want clarification on the buyback agreement. Did you say they have 25 years?
Thank you for your question. Through the mayor to the councillor, the buyback agreement has a term of 25 years, so HRM will have the opportunity to repurchase the site for 25 years.
420. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Daigle-Gammon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Greg. I'm just looking at some of the conditions there, and I was just wondering, would they also be required, or did they ask to be part of the nonprofit tax program? They'll fall under the affordable housing category, I would think. But
I think I'll for a second here.
Hello, Ann Totten, Principal Planner with Regional Community Planning. The applicant would be eligible for the nonprofit tax program, but they wouldn't be able to apply until they actually have ownership of the property.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move along to Councillor Kent, please.
Yes, I just want to, excuse me, sorry. Just want to make sure, when I was reading the report, it felt like it had a significant focus on the Pinecrest. This is for all of the 4 that are identified, correct? It's just Pinecrest. Okay, so I find that's a little bit confusing here. So this is just for Pinecrest.
Through the mayor to the councillor, yes, this is just for Pinecrest.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Hartling, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to take this moment and create a teachable moment. I don't understand why we are directing the mayor and the municipal clerk. Can somebody help me understand why that's the case? Normally, everything that we look at, we direct our acting CAO. I just don't understand why. Just to sign the deeds? That's the answer? Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Councillor Morse, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It sounded like in the report that there are a lot of challenges finding the right match for the housing organization and the surplus land and that sort of thing, that in a way we have more surplus land than we can match with a provider. So is there more coming to council at some point about how we can improve this approach to make sure that we make the most of the land that we do have and can make more land available for organizations?
Through you to the councillor. Currently, this was just the pilot program. There's no permanent program currently envisioned. The issue will be dealt with in the forthcoming affordable housing strategy, but until there are available resources, there aren't any further iterations of the program or assessment of properties.
So when is the next decision point for council on this?
I believe it's August.
August, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Good evening, Council. Aaron Murnahan, Manager of the Housing Accelerator Fund Program, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Councillor. We do have an affordable housing strategy coming as part of our Housing Accelerator Fund Action Plan. It's slated to come before council in August or September of this year. So that will provide us with a little bit more direction on what to happen next with surplus lands for affordable housing.
Okay, so you're going to go into more detail at that time about different measures we might put into effect.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Councillor Austin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, I did have one correspondence from a resident on this. I think they're in attendance. I just want to clarify on their behalf. The zoning for this property, it's from what I can tell, here it's higher order residential and allows up to 5 stories as of right.
Through the mayor to the councillor, that is correct.
And that would be the same zoning as this entire little section of Pinecrest, like this whole frontage area. Not just our property, but.
Through the mayor to the councillor, I do believe that there is some established residential in the area, but that site is higher order residential.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate the clarification.
Councillor Steele, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. I'm just curious on how you go about designating lands as being surplus. We just talked about a shortage of land for cricket, so I realize housing and cricket are totally different, but I'm curious how you go about designating it, and then how do you go about deciding then that you make it available? I know I don't think the report really mentioned that.
Through you to the councillor, that's a process that corporate real estate manages, so they would be able to speak to more of the details on how sites are chosen. It does go through a review process where each business unit has input into whether there's further municipal need for the land, but ultimately they manage the process with the recommendation to council for properties to be declared surplus under the various categories.
Okay, and this is land that could not. Well, this is land that could also potentially be sold privately for private use as well. So it's foregone revenue for the municipality. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes. Is it on? Okay. Yes, that's correct. However, to sell it in another way would require it to come back and be recategorized. Yes.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hensby, please.
Thank you much, Mr. Mayor. In regards to one of the properties shown in the presentation, 15 Laurel Crescent, Eastern Passage, I'm looking at the description of the property online, and it describes lot 17A as parkland. I'm just kind of curious in regards to, we've had the discussion offline about how do we declare unusable vacant parkland properties as surplus for potential housing. So I'm just kind of curious how this one got on the list when I've been trying to get others on the list. So I'd like to know how we're going to clarify parkland properties that are no longer necessary for parkland use could be added to the list of potential housing project.
Through the mayor to the councillor, Laurel Crest was declared surplus and went through the park closure process back in 2019. I believe it may have happened in tandem with the property being declared surplus, but that's something that corporate real estate and parks had worked together on. I know we discussed some other park properties, and those have not yet been formally closed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hinch, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The call for submissions, do we know how many you received? I don't see it in the...
Through the mayor to the councillor, I believe we received 8 total applications.
8 total applications? Just another question. We're talking about one parcel of land here, but why were there 4 there?
So there were 4 pilot sites chosen for this program. We received 8 applications for 3 of the properties. So I believe it was 3 for Scotia Drive in Bedford, 3 for Pinecrest in Dartmouth, and 2 for the Bears Road site. And they all underwent our review. I think in the report it mentions the review committee to look at the viability of the financial viability of the projects, as well as the rankings on social equity and affordability. And the result was the one project that we're bringing to you today.
So will they be building soon? Will they start the project soon or development? So is there a project?
The project is the one that's been outlined in the report and presentation. As far as a construction date, the buyback agreement does stipulate a 30-month deadline, essentially, to start construction. We are recommending that HRM holds on to the property until they ensure that their funding is secured and the permits approved.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. There's no one else on the board. So I'm going to now open the public hearing and begin by inviting the applicant Dylan Ward, who is representing Rooted Community Development Partners, to provide a presentation. Come on down, Dylan, and you've got 10 minutes to present, and the clerk here will show you a card when you've got 30 seconds remaining. And whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Council. Just wanted to start off by saying thank you for the invite and the opportunity to be, I believe, one of the first for the HRM's Surplus Land Initiative program. I'm representing Rooted Community Development Partners, formerly Dartmouth Housing. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development, and I've had quite a few conversations with some of the councillors around the table, as well as sort of our growing impact beyond HRM as well. We're now in Truro and serving more of a provincial mandate. This particular opportunity was exciting for us. I think our CEO, Nick Russell, has had several conversations over the years in terms of surplus land opportunities or ability to kind of couple up with other municipal infrastructure. Fire halls has been a real focus, being that our main office backs onto one. Seeing Councillor Mancini and Councillor Austin there nodding their heads. I'm not going to say an agreement or just kind of general high-level conversation, but this site in particular, I won't say has been fully fleshed out. I think some of the what was submitted was a best case scenario, or sort of the most highest and best use possibilities. And I was just speaking with another member of the public who was interested in the project and kind of describing how we arrived at those numbers and some of the back of the napkin math. I think Rooted is in a really strong position to develop these sorts of opportunities, surplus lands. You saw our first new build in recent years in Cole Harbour using provincial land for housing site, one Circassian, and that was a success. I think in terms of scale, we're also interested in addressing missing middle housing, and there's not often opportunities for reaching viability, especially with land at a cost. So this is a great benefit to nonprofit housing development, kind of taking that first barrier away with a $1 purchase of land. I'd say there's many more hurdles and barriers to overcome to really sort of maximize the opportunity on this particular site. We do own, Rooted owns the two detached homes just south of 48 Pinecrest, if I'm getting my addresses right. They are detached and now accessible units that we've invested money in with support from the province. So that kind of comes into the consideration of whether we're developing across 3 lots and sort of a consolidation effort, or if we're looking solely in situ on the site that the surplus lands initiative is speaking to. So all of that has gone into the considerations, and I think there's many more conversations to be had about the future for this particular site and funding alongside it to support new construction. We know that there's a lot of inherent risk with new construction, and so we need all the support from all levels of government.
Okay, thank you very much, Dylan. I'm just going to turn to the council and see if they have any questions of clarification for you. And I'm not seeing any at this moment. Then I am going to move to the speakers list that we have, and members of the public will be given 5 minutes to address the topic. When I call your name, please come up to the microphone where Dylan just was, state your name and the name of the community in which you reside, and you can see a timer there on the center table to monitor your own speaking time, but the clerk will also hold up a sign for you when you have 30 seconds remaining and when your time is complete. Please keep your comments respectful, on topic, and directed to the chair. And after everyone on the list has been given an opportunity to speak, I'll call 3 times to see if there is any additional speaker in the gallery. So the first and in fact only name on the list is Adrian Bory. So Adrian, I welcome you to come on down to the mic, and whenever you're ready, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Great. Good evening, Council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I am a community member in Dartmouth and live on Pinecrest Drive. I'm interested in this new development and was very interested to hear about the proposal for 22 units. Certainly, I definitely had some questions about whether it would be a good idea to knock down 2 established missing middle units on 46 and 44, which, as our rooted representative has said, that they've actually invested quite a lot of money into. But it sounds as though that the plans are not solidified as of right now. With the 22 units, I also had questions about the feasibility of that. In the report, it refers to 1 Circassian Drive, which is an 18-unit building built on approximately 25,000 square feet of land. The combined 48, 46, and 44 is only about 11,000 square feet of land, so about 40% of the footprint of 1 Circassian Drive, so you're building more units on 40% of land. And I think I also just wondered a little bit about parking. On Pinecrest Drive, there isn't currently any available parking spots on the street, and during the winter months, you're not able to park there, especially if there's any snow clearing to be done. It's illegal to park overnight. So I would just want any structures built on the surplus land to consider parking as well. So I think that's all my comments, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much for that, Adrienne. Appreciate that. I'm going to, there are no other names on the list, as I've said, but I'm going to call 3 times now to see if anyone in the gallery would like to speak. Is there anyone in the gallery who would like to speak? Is there anyone in the gallery who would like to speak? Is there anyone in the gallery who would like to speak? Okay, seeing no additional speakers, I am going to, next step in the procedure here is to invite the applicant, should you wish to respond to any of the points raised during the public comment. Seems like you're on pretty good speaking terms up there. Okay, good. That's great. Then I will now ask Council for a motion to close the public hearing. Moved by Councillor Austin, seconded by Councillor Gillis, I believe. And all those in favor? All right, the public hearing is now closed. And now I'll ask our staff team if they would like to respond to any points that they heard raised by any of the speakers. Not seeing any, thank you. And then finally, Council, do you have any questions for our staff team? And I see, not yet. Okay, all right, thank you. And now we are at the point where we need to introduce the motion. Would someone like to put the motion on the floor? Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Halifax Regional Council approve the sale substantially on the terms and conditions outlined in the staff report dated May 19th, 2026, and A, authorize staff to negotiate and execute on behalf of the municipality an agreement of purchase and sale for the conveyance of the subject property, and B, direct the mayor and municipal clerk to execute on behalf of the municipality the deed, buyback agreement, and any other associated documents required to effect the conveyance of the subject property.
Seconded by Councillor St. Amand. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor St. Amand. This transaction is one that I support. I would ask that we authorize this. We need more affordable housing in our community, and Rooted has a long history in our community. They've owned the buildings. I took a look because I was curious as just how long they've had those, and they bought them from the two properties next door from the city of Dartmouth in 1992. So they've been long-term stakeholders in this neighborhood. There's no doubt been, many people have benefited from the homes next door, and I think we have the opportunity here for additional families in Dartmouth to continue benefiting with the sale of this property. So I support this transaction. I do want to acknowledge the concerns from the resident who spoke tonight and who I had the chance to speak to prior to the public hearing. It is anytime you got new development happen in your neighborhood, that is these are the places we love. These are our homes, and so that's a completely valid thing to have concerns about. I think at this point we have a nonprofit with deep roots in the community who's looking to buy these properties, and the one thing we can't do as a council, we don't have a municipal purpose for this land, right? If we're not selling this through the affordable housing stream, then we're just putting the for sale sign up and anyone is buying it, right? You can't use just holding on to a piece of property you don't have any use for as a way to address your land if you have land use bylaw concerns. And so the zoning for this property is the same as the zoning on this block. We're better off, I think, as a community to have this go to someone who wants to do something that's going to really give back. So I support this, and I would urge the rest of council to as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We'll go to Councillor Purdy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just wanted to speak to this as well. I'm happy to support this, and I did want to ask staff if there is parking considerations. I know that is a big concern for folks with the new developments coming into your area, but I'm the counselor for one Circassian. So Rooted did their development. It opened last year, and I want to say they've been a good neighbor to the surrounding residents. And also there was a big concern for parking on the street of Circassian too, because it's kind of a dangerous curve, and it's a very big intersection there on the Forest Hills Parkway. And to my knowledge, I've not received any complaints of parking concerns or infractions because of the development that has gone there. So understanding these are big concerns for communities when the unknown is looming. But from my perspective in our district, it's been a good development. It's been and Rooted has been a good neighbor to the surrounding area. So yeah, just wondering about if there are parking considerations for this development that you know of that could help maybe alleviate some of that concern. My daughter used to live on Primrose, and I know parking is an issue in this area.
Through the mayor to the councillor, this area is in the regional center and the urban service boundary, so under the minimum planning requirements that the province brought in, we have no ability to mandate parking.
No. Okay, but on one Circassian, there was parking as part of the development, and it seems to have been sufficient from our experience anyway, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other names on the list. Council, what's your pleasure? Questions called. And the motion carries. Thank you, Greg, Ann, and Aaron, for the presentations and being on hand for the questions and answers. Thank you, Dylan and Adrian, for speaking as well, and all the support behind the staff team as well. With this, we are going to now return back to item 14.1, and I'll ask Madam Clerk to reestablish the speakers list as it has already been done. and we'll just crack right into it here. So with that, Councillor Daigle-Gammon, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I apologize for being one of the 3 reasons that we didn't conclude this before 5 o'clock. I guess I would really like to say that when we think about baseball, and you guys have heard me speak a lot about the LWF baseball, and we've got just about 1,000 kids, and we're going all over to find baseball fields. And so as much as I am a champion of baseball, it wouldn't be to the exclusion of another sport. And I do know that we need cricket. At the same time, we can't look at another sport and have a negative impact on the baseball either. And then just, to the significance of place, one of the things, and Councillor Mancini, I may not have heard you the way that I should have, but the name of the Merrick Field, it is very much connected to that field, to the dirt in that ground. It is rooted in place. And when they talk about the human factor and the significance of place, the testimony and the history of Mr. Merrick that was given by the previous speakers, I think it's really important that that does stay in that place. And so I hope this supplementary report finds us another option for cricket, but not that field. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Austin, did you want to close? Yeah, okay, then we'll go to Councillor Mancini.
Thank you, Mayor. So, colleagues, my ask here today is obviously support the supplementary report, but I ask you to keep an open mind. A few of you have made comments about not touching this field. All the information is not out there. So I just ask you to keep that open mind. Once we have all that information, so it's really a little bit unfair because Councillor Austin and I did some more digging and spoke to staff personally. That's the reason why he wants to bring the supplementary report forward. So, I think I heard Councillor Purdy say we need to slow down the process. We don't need to slow down the process. Nothing's going to happen until 2028. So we've got lots of time here. The issue is, as mentioned a couple times, a cricket field is the biggest playing field of any sport that exists. And so that limits where we go. And if there's a place in Sackville you've got, Councillor Gillis will entertain that, I'm sure. And happy to, I know the cricket folks will be happy to go to crickets in Sackville. And there's no question we need to keep Arthur H. Merrick maintained and honored for the work that he's done in Dartmouth and the ball field. And I understand, Councillor Daigle-Gammon, it's rooted in place, the dirt in that field, but we need to balance this. And there's other ways to make sure, I think we could even enhance his name and his memory, whether it's on that field or in another field, because that leads to my other point I'm going to make now. Staff are actually talking about other fields so that we're going to net gain more fields out of this whole process. So right now, as it exists, the baseball community saying there are not enough fields. If we were to proceed with the cricket pitch on that location, there's potentially to have 3, maybe even more fields out of all this, plus additional fields to have added lights so the older players can play later at night and the younger players in the day. So there's a lot of information to be gathered here, and I just ask you please to keep that open mind. It was asked about, I think Councillor Hartland talked about breaking new ground. Well, if we wait to break new ground, unfortunately, it's going to be 10, 20 years because it's millions of dollars to do that from scratch, right? I mean, I think a ball field, just a basic ball field, is close to $1 million from scratch, just a ball field alone. And a cricket pitch is so much bigger. And when the supplementary report comes back, we need to talk about the data out there. There's some misinformation about the hours of play in that Dartmouth field. And so we want to talk about the days of the week, the hours of play right now that we have with cricket, and the potential hours of play when cricket's in place if they had a true cricket pitch. So just finally, I wanted to address to Councillor Santamon. I'm not sure if I understood your points about different levels of play. That's happening right now at cricket. So they play, I think they call it tennis cricket. It's with the different balls, almost like a tennis ball, so they can play in a smaller area. That they don't play their full cricket because they don't have a cricket pitch. So the Commons is not full cricket, Don Bear Park's not full cricket, Cole Harbour's not full cricket. They're not able to play the full cricket because they don't have the cricket pitch. So they're doing that other level. So just finally, folks, I just ask you, just keep that open mind till you get the SUP report back. And then obviously make your decision at that point in time, because the problem in the community right now, they don't all have the information. And again, my opening statement earlier was I'm a baseball guy and I love the sport, live and breathe it. If you were to take it away from me, I'd be concerned also. But let's get the information so they can make the right decision. We can make the right decision. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. And to Councillor St. Amant, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to further clarify, so Councillor Mancini, my thinking on that was just that the levels of play have different physical needs and requirements from fields of play. And at the moment, we have all levels of play occurring on the same set of 3 fields that are approved for cricket. So I'm looking to staff to look for recommendations that might free up additional spaces among the fields that we have available for use now.
And for the close, Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, colleagues, for the discussion on this. And I think a lot of the discussion around here highlights why we need a supplemental report, because there's a bunch of different questions around this, around usage, the demand for space, and certainly like the Merrick kind of legacy piece. That's not really touched on in the report, so that's something that we'd have to think about too. And so I think that this is why we need a supplemental report. And I just want to make clear, because staff had looked to me earlier saying, well, you please make your intention known. I'm not looking to pause current work at this stage. I'm hoping that staff can bring this back fairly quickly. As you kind of heard to some of the answers, they have a pretty good handle on a lot of this. So I'm hoping this won't be like a year to return type thing. So I'm not looking to pause current work, but I am hoping for, a rather, not a lengthy turnaround time to get back on this, and so that we can take a look at all these different questions that have been raised and then make a decision at that time based on all the information. I will just say, just because I know there is a lot of tension on this, my mind is not made up. I'm certainly not like, no, at any cost, cricket can't go here. I think there are some ways that we could potentially make this work, and so I'm open still to more information on this topic. This should be a win-win. We have, we talk about partnerships. We talk about, satisfying different sorts of needs out there in the community. We have $1 million that just kind of fell from heaven from, down the hill on us to help us out with the recreation needs. How often do we kind of struggle with the, oh, well, we're in this alone. Where's our help from our partner or other orders of government? We have $1 million right now to take a look at a cricket facility in HRM, and it's not just cricket. You can spend that $1 million to also make space for other sports if you're displacement. You could drop it all on a cricket standalone, or you can also do the things such as what the staff had suggested in the report, like making the field up in Dartmouth North there by the library into a proper baseball field. So, there's a lot of moving pieces to this, and we really just need, before we make a decision, we need all the information out there and available to us so that you can clearly see, okay, well, if this is changing, then what? How are we compensating for this lost space? How, where does the Merrick family fit in this? Because, that's not an inconsequential thing. So, I think we need to kind of take into account all these different pieces, because the staff report kind of started us on the path to getting there, but it's just not quite all there for all the questions we have. So I hope you'll support my supplemental report, and then we can revisit this in maybe 6 months or so. Thank you.
Thank you. The question has just been called. And the motion carries. Okay, thank you very much, Jacqueline and team. I appreciate your work on this very much. And with that, we will move on to item 15.1.1. Proposed amendments to Administrative Order 15 respecting license permits and process fees adjustment to parking rates for 2026-2027 budget. And I wonder if anyone would like to put the motion on the floor. Councillor Hinch. Oh, thank you very much, Councillor Hinch.
It's recommended, right? It is recommended that Halifax Regional Council adopt the amendment of Administrative Order 15 of the License, Permit, and Process Fees Administrative Order as set out in Attachment 1 of this report.
Seconded by Councillor Steele. Councillor Hinch, would you like to say any more on the topic?
I'll just hold off a bit and see what others have to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I think we might be going quickly to a question here. Okay, the vote has been called. And the motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 15.1.2, Proposed Administrative Order 2026-005-ADM, respecting costs for area rates and uniform changes. Would anyone like to put the motion on the floor? Councillor Hensby.
Thank you much, Mr. Mayor, that the Halifax Regional Council adopt the Administrative Order 2026-005 ADM. The cost of area rates and uniform charges administrative order is set out in Attachment 1 of the staff report dated June 4th, 2026.
Seconded by Councillor Daigle Gammon.
Just a clarification, when we had the discussion during the budget process and stuff, we talked about a 5% charge. If I read the report correctly, are we now adding 5% to local area rates to cover that charge? That's how I read the order, because I thought at the beginning we thought about taking 5% off the area rate, but now it looks like we're adding 5% to the area rate to cover the administrative charge.
Robertson, Director of Revenue and Treasurer. Yes, during the budget discussions, we did talk about deducting the 5%, but after discussions with staff, we realized that it probably is more practical to add the 5%. It would be difficult to ask people to now go back and adjust budgets and so on based on that 5% reduction. However, if in future years they decide that they don't want that 5% charge to the residents, they could actually ask for a reduction in the overall area rate, and then when we tack the 5% on, it would equal out.
Okay, so an area rate that had a $20 fee, now it's going to be $21 instead of $19 the group would get, correct? So we would charge them $21 now with a $1 administrative fee. They still get the $20.
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor, yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any other names on the list. Questions called. And the motion carries. Thank you very much. This brings us to section 15.2 of the agenda, Grants Committee. And 15.2.1 is Proposed Administrative Order 2026-003-ADM, respecting grants for rural transit and proposed repeal of Administrative Order 2014-012-ADM. Would someone like to, Councillor St. Amand, put the motion on the floor, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Halifax Regional Council adopt Administrative Order 2026-003 ADM, the Rural Transit Grants Administrative Order, including the repeal of Administrative Order 2014-012-ADM as set out in Attachment B of the staff report dated May 22nd, 2026.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Gillis.
Well, just to give you a sense of what the conversation was at Grants Committee about this, this is really just about fixing a little bit of an inefficiency in our grants program. We have operating grants available to these rural transit operators, but nothing that relates to capital. And so this is a matter of just plugging a hole that we kind of inadvertently left in that process. And it's a relatively small hole. At the moment, it's only planned to be $200,000 dedicated to this purpose. And so this is really just a matter of ensuring that the rural transit providers have access to a little bit of funding that will help them keep their machinery, their vehicles on the road, because that would fall into a capital area rather than an operating area.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other names. Question is called. And the motion carries. And thank you to the transit and other and grants team at the back of the room there. Much appreciated. I see the hand clapping. That's nice to see. Very good. This brings us to 15.4.1, Councillor Hinch, amendments to bylaw B600 respecting blasting. Councillor Hinch, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I make a small amendment to my motion, though? Do I put it on first? Okay, I move that Halifax Regional Council direct the Chief Administrative Officer to prepare a staff report to amend Section 5 respecting hours of blasting of bylaw 8-600 respecting blasting to restrict blasting activities during operational hours of school in or daycare centers that are located in the close proximity to the building site.
Seconded by Councillor White.
So the amendment that I wanted to make was for elementary schools and not just schools, because I'm not concerned about high schools or colleges or anything of that nature. I am concerned about elementary schools and daycares. So I received an email from one of my constituents with regards to blasting that's going on near a daycare site right now. But the thing that struck me the most about it was the fact that when the parents were told about this, they were pretty much given the direction to buy noise absorbent panels for noise cancellation headphones for their children. So this is an added cost for the kids. Also, the daycare is providing noise absorbent panels for outdoors to use reduce regular construction noises, which is a concern. And also noise reduction curtains to use over the windows when they are inside. And this also limits their time from outside. And the blasting is from like 11:30 till 3 p.m. So it limits a lot of their outside activity as well for the daycare. I believe that, you know, we could probably change this bylaw by either making it either to the weekends or after hours of the day of the school and daycare times. So I hope that you will support this. I think that this is something that we can get behind. So yeah, if you guys have anything to say, I would greatly appreciate it.
Councillor Steele, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly understand the intent of your motion, Councillor Hinch, but I guess I wonder, when are they going to do the blasting if it's not during the work week and during the time when, you know, the children are in school? I would hope that this blasting is for a finite period. Part of the reason why I jumped in is I'm dealing with blasting issues all over the place in my district, and so I'm curious, like, have you spoken with staff about this and they're fine with this motion? They are? Okay. So yeah, like I I don't know how we could really do that to make them do work on the weekend. Or I know that in my district on the weekend, we gave permission for some work on the road to take place on a Sunday because the traffic light had to be out. Well, I had some really unhappy residents about the work starting at 7 a.m. on a Sunday and going until around 10:45 Sunday evening. So we may please some people but disappoint others. So I just have some hesitation around this. I just, it's late in the evening and everything, but I don't know. I don't know if there's anyone here, Brad, like I don't know how practical this might be. Yeah.
At this point, it's a request for the staff report, but I just want the solicitor to clarify an earlier comment about staff being involved with the motion.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I mean, staff would not have a problem with the staff report if that's what you want. But I can tell you that, blasting after the operational hours of school is in the evenings and at night time in a residential largely area. I can suggest that I understand likely staff report is going to highlight that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
You've got a choice. You're either doing it when people are at home and sleeping or after hours on a weekend, or you're doing it during the working day would be my suggestion, and that becomes the problem.
Okay, thank you very much. And that was Councillor Steele's time, and we'll move on now to Councillor Kent.
Yes, thank you. I'm really happy to see this come forward. Excuse me. I owned and operated a preschool for a very long time. I've worked with young children for much of my life, have children of my own and grandchildren, and I would rather see at least an opportunity for a report to be made with some look at other jurisdictions to see what they do. And I'd like some research on the effects of these kinds of loud noises on the impact of trauma related to it. If this blasting is close to a daycare like that or a preschool, those children are at risk. They're at risk of a traumatic event. They're at risk of certainly to their learning capacity. That kind of a large voluminous noise and a shudder that happens when you have blasting around can disrupt the whole day. You're talking about preschoolers. You're talking about young children who should not have to be experiencing that, particularly in classrooms that are large and one person that can console maybe one or two kids at a time. It just has a lasting effect. And I just would like some research on that, and that's based on my understanding and my knowledge of this. I had some large construction going on near my school when we had it, and I can tell you it's very, very disruptive, and it really can have a lasting effect. The other thing around the disruption in relation to the really educational element for the day when this is happening, you can imagine how many kids would want to potentially be watching the big trucks, the big heavy equipment, and potentially if it's close enough that it could have that kind of impact. So anyway, I think you've got the message from me. I think that this is worth at least investigating, and I think we should look at it from the lens of being overly cautious to get the right information to make a decision that is sound in data and also sound in protecting our vulnerable kids that are in those programs. And if it means, it may not be that often, but if it means that we're not putting kids involved in a situation where they're going to carry that potentially for the rest of their lives, to be scared of loud noises and shuddering and things like that, if we have to have a bylaw that is about, if it's located near a daycare or an elementary school, then there is an alternative to the time frame that they could potentially do their blasting. That doesn't mean it has to be a big swath across the whole municipality. Maybe I'm just thinking outside the box, but I think it's worth looking at.
Thank you. Councillor Cleary, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not sure how to follow that last one. I'm fine with the staff report. So I was in an interesting situation 2 summers ago where my wife, who owns a preschool, had blasting happen literally right next door to her on Oxford Street. And the blasts were usually 1 or 2 a day. Then they actually excavate, they move it all out. It doesn't happen very often, but it can be very loud. It also became a teachable moment with the children. And Councillor Kent, they really did like the machinery, especially the little boys, looking through the fence in the big hole that was being created. It was pretty awesome. I have to admit, I was watching it with a few days. So, I'm happy to look at this. I do share the comments that have been made, or share and agree with the comments that have been made. There's 24 hours in a day. And if you look at, and I invite you to just Google licensed childcare centers in Halifax, or go to the department's website and look up the centers, there are centers everywhere. Like you can't spit in most neighborhoods without hitting one. And so it would be a huge imposition to say you can't blast during a day in almost any neighborhood on the peninsula. However, I think the research would be good, a jurisdictional scan, and also a little bit of education around perhaps regulations with regard to these things. If you have, I don't know if you've ever been around blasting, we've lived around a couple now. If you're in the zone for the concussion of whatever they're using, you get the notification from the contractor, you get the insurance inspection, they take pictures and video, they look at your walls. And if you're part of that, usually there's really good communication. And as a counselor, I've dealt with a couple of the contractors. There's only a couple that I know of that do this. I don't know if there are more, but certainly only a couple that I've ever dealt with. They're very professional. They're good at working with neighbors and those folks who are impacted by it. And actually, David Benoit, who is head of Build Nova Scotia, I met with him recently, and around the hospital expansion on Roby and Bell Road there, they had a situation where they were literally doing brain surgery and blasting, and they had to go down and ask the contractor not to blast. And to the best of my knowledge, they said, sure, no problem, we'll put it off. There was no extra costs associated with the delay. They worked with the hospital to make sure that was all good. Teaching kids isn't the same as brain surgery, but if you have communication between those impacted residents and businesses near the site, you can, and I know my wife has, and she's a very forceful individual, had them delay some blasting, and so they could go to Park, which was several blocks away down in Ardmore. So, being neighborly and having good communication often resolves most of these issues. I hate to do it by regulation, but I think getting the staff report and seeing what are the issues, what are other people doing about it, I think it's fine. I have no idea what will come back and what impact it'll be, but we also have to be cognizant of the fact that we're still growing and need thousands of units, and we need to balance all interests that are coming together. So happy to support this, Councillor Hinch. Don't know what I'll support when it comes back, but if I didn't support this, I don't think I could go home tonight and face my spouse.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Communication and good relationships are great when you have them, but they are also not all that common. I have a lot of development happening in Spryfield, and there's one big project, 1,000 lots of new housing, and one of the residents on the neighboring streets recorded over 600 incidents of blasting within a year. And the blasting was so bad that some people had rockfall in their yards. One particularly big rock about that size captured on a door cam landing in somebody's driveway. I was told because it was the rock, when you're blasting the granite, it could be unpredictable sometimes. It has basically left an entire neighborhood of Green Acres traumatized. And that's no word of a lie. Also, what I'm discovering is the third party you go through to make a claim about blasting damage. I think it has some issues in that there's no way to appeal it. So if somebody is doing blasting, they hire a third party to review claims. So that reviewer is actually hired by the developer. And if there's a dispute, there is no alternative dispute resolution to go through that. I have a development that has been approved next to a school, Shabukto Elementary. It is basically a mountain of granite that they want to develop on. The blasting there would be so extraordinary and ongoing that I've heard lots of concern from staff at the school and parents of the children about the impact that would have on the daily lives of the kids attending that school, including many who have come to Canada recently, some of whom are from coming from difficult circumstances where there is existing trauma. So I don't think it's something to take lightly. I think that the blasting that's being experienced in some of our communities is really, I think, outrageous would be the word I would use, and it's distressing all around. A developer told me all the easy land in Halifax is being developed. If it was easy to develop, it's being developed. We're treading into territory where there's a lot of land that's not easy to build on and requires a lot of blasting, a lot of rock breaking, a lot of noise, and to not acknowledge the impact it has on school children and residents, I think is doing a disservice to our residents. So I will support the staff report here, and I hope it does reflect not just what we're legally able to do or not do, but it also captures some of the concerns from residents and the complaints from residents and from school staff, so we get a fulsome picture of what's actually happening out there in relation to blasting. Thank you.
Councillor Purdy, please.
Thank you. Happy to support this as well. I think with all of the development happening and set to happen, I think our residents can go through the kind of construction fatigue. So I think it would be good to look at different options for this. And for blasting in particular, it's almost like, fireworks every day of the week for folks who have to go through this. And we know how we get a lot of feedback about fireworks and the trauma that can cause folks. So yeah, happy to see what comes back with this, knowing that development is necessary, but where's that happy balance that we can strike for folks that have to endure this? Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Austin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The one that I've actually had more complaint about isn't blasting, it's pile driving. When King's Wharf was being built, yeah, exactly, dong, just, for hours. And like the Woodside, the student residence at North Woodside at the campus there, that one was a good one for pile driving. The only thing, I'll support a request here for a staff report to take a look at this. The only thing I just want to remind council of is the last time we looked at our blasting and noise bylaw regarding construction, we dialed things back by 1 hour. That promptly got the province to pass special legislation to give the housing minister the ability to override anything, any bylaw that we make that could be seen to in some way impede housing. So I'm fine to take a look at this, but unless we have something that's a very, very, very light touch, it's not going anywhere. It's going to be no right out of the gate. The only reason that we didn't get overruled there is once people actually were informed as to what we were proposing, the construction association said, oh wait, we really like these exemptions that we can get for things like pouring concrete that don't fit into the normal day. And so that's the only reason we didn't get overruled at all. But they literally passed legislation specifically on this issue to prevent us from doing what we're now contemplating maybe we want to do. So don't get too excited.
And on to Councillor Hartling, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I really struggle with this because I don't see a path forward where this makes sense the way that it's written. Unfortunately, I just feel like where the hours are, I feel like it's going to be very restrictive, and perhaps that's why I need to be open and receptive to the idea that a staff report would be forthcoming. I also remind myself that blasting is not a forever thing, right? Like communities aren't forever trauma, or you know, they are not forever dealing with blasting. Blasting is necessarily a temporary thing, and I really struggle here. But I guess what I would like to do is I will support it in principle. I hope that for the staff that review this, if instead of just looking at the hours of blasting, if we could kind of look back on that communication piece and see if there's an opportunity for us to negotiate the relationships a little bit better, specifically with daycares or elementary schools, given that the likelihood that, you know, not blasting between the hours of, say, 11 and 3 is likely not going to be practical. You know, are there alternatives that we might explore? The other thing that I would say is, and I truthfully don't know, in as much as I would love to have all the information in the world, how much information are we really going to find about, you know, blasting between the hours of 11 and 3 for municipalities as it relates to elementary school children? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what information can we really glean? So while I'm prepared to support this, because I'm hoping that staff might come back with something that we can do that will provide meaning and meaningful relief and support for the communities where blasting exists, I don't know that I understand a path forward with the way that this is presented in principle. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Councillor St. Amand, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know how developers make the decision as to whether to blast versus pile drive. I've got some in my jurisdiction that are most certainly doing considerable amounts of rock breaking, and when the projects last considerably longer and that repetitive noise winds up irritating neighbors, that can be quite damaging in of itself. So I'm very curious to know how those offsets occur. You know, we may be looking at something where what comes back may be an imposition of an alternative being used, and that in itself may be disadvantageous. So I'm certainly open to seeing what staff will wind up being able to come back with. But if, you know, for one blast you wind up trading off and having 2 days of pile driving, I don't know how we reconcile that for our residents, and whether or not we will just see more complaints, more disruption to daycares, classrooms, whatever the case may be. So I'm very interested to have staff weigh in, and whether or not there's even a reasonable way to know what those offsets would be. But it's something that has to be given some specific thought and included in some capacity in the staff report that returns.
Thank you. I'm just going to dip my oar in here as people come around for the second or third time. I know that currently blasting is prohibited from 6 p.m. until 8 a.m. and on weekends. And so that leaves pretty discrete windows in which to blast. And so if schools are out at 3 or 4 o'clock, that might leave a couple of hours a day to blast, which will impede construction of housing, as others have pointed out. I could understand investigating a bylaw that would be place specific if a daycare were next to a gravel pit, a quarry, where the use is not transitory, as it is at a construction site. The blasting use is transitory, and you'll hear me say it before, and I'll say it again. We are asking an awful lot of our staff right now with staff reports, and if you don't think you're going to vote for it when it comes back, don't see why you'd vote for it tonight, to give our staff a break. Thank you, and we'll go on to the Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you. There was just one more consideration here. I know up around Green Acres, when they blast, one of the effects is a tremendous amount of dust in the air. I've had residents send me photos of, their backyard. It looks like it's in dense fog, but it's actually stone dust, and it coats their homes, their trees, their plants, their grass, everything. A consideration around schools would be to have that coordination, so that when the schools or when the kids are playing outside in the schoolyard during lunch or during recesses, that blasting not be allowed. And some of that might come through communication, as Councillor Cleary said, but I think sometimes you might need to have a stronger message that it's really imperative that if they're going to be doing blasting and there's going to be dust in the air, or things that could be harmful to the kids, that there has to be a mandatory conversation about coordination, because we're blasting in populated areas. It's not like we're blasting way out on a quarry where there's nobody living. Like, this is like in the city, and it's about being respectful neighbors. And I do think it is worth discussing. Thank you.
Thank you, and Councillor Hinch, please.
Thank you for the conversation, folks. My rationale around this was because there is limited time during the day for these kids to play outside, and there is debris that's going. The debris is flying, the blasting itself, but also the limitations that they have on with regards to having to buy noise canceled earphones and all this stuff that people probably can't afford. But my other thing is that Councillor Hartland said it's only a limited time during the day. So why can't we offset that somehow? Why can't we, do something, say, after 3 o'clock or on the weekends? I have heard a number of times from my residents who said, why are we doing work in the middle of the night? Or why is this work going on? How come you're interrupting my sleep? There are so many things that are going on in our areas that our residents don't like. And I'm pretty sure that our residents could get behind the fact that we are, doing this for our daycare kids, our elementary students. I don't see this as, something that's going to, how I want, I know there's times when I get passionate about things, and this is probably one of the times I'm going to get passionate about them. But, these are kids. These are young kids. They don't make the decisions. They can't make the decisions. They can't, some of them can't even tell you what they're going through during that time period, whether if they're feeling something, whether they're distressed, they may be crying or something of that. You just don't know. So I think there's things that we could probably do to eliminate those concerns. I hope that you guys do support this. Again, it's a report. We're looking for a report, and hopefully that we can get information that, along with the blasting, along with, what residents, because we know residents have called in numerous times with regards to blasting and how they feel about it. So I hope we can get all the information to see if we can make a reasonable choice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hinch. I don't see any other names on the list. Questions called. The motion carries. Okay, colleagues, that brings us to item 18. Added items. Added items were an information item. Yes, we had two information. We had an information item and two in-camera items added. They've been dealt with. Bringing us to section 19, notices of motion. Are there any? Begging your pardon. Begging your pardon. It was. I thought that had all been dealt with. Councillor Hensby, the floor is yours.
Thank you much, Mr. Mayor. Move the motion that that in accordance with Section 7 Administrative Order 53, the municipal alcohol policy of Halifax Regional Council grant permission to the Porters Lake Community Service Association to serve alcohol in a specifically defined section of the Porters Lake Community Center Park for the annual Lake and Shore Days on August 15th, 2026, and that the serving alcohol in this park shall be governed by the market value license agreement. And the purpose of this is just to wish them to have a beer tent on the basketball court and batting cage area to accompany their outdoor dance.
The motion carries. Very good. And Madam Clerk, are there any other added items to be dealt with? Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to notices of motion, and I noted that Councillor Hartling had one for sure. We'll start there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Take notice, I propose to introduce Administrative Order SC 109 respecting closure of a portion of Sunny's Road, Tantallon, the purpose of which is to permanently close the subject street right-of-way.
So noted. Thank you. And Councillor Austin.
In a similar vein, Mr. Mayor, take notice, I propose to introduce Administrative Order SC 111 respecting closure of a portion of Robert Burns Drive, Dartmouth, the purpose of which is to permanently close the subject street right-of-way.
So noted. Thank you. Councillor Morse.
Thank you. Take notice that at a future meeting of Halifax Regional Council, I intend to propose amendments to Administrative Order 29 respecting HRM civic addressing policies, the purpose of which is to authorize the renaming of 2 municipal streets to eliminate duplicate or confusing street names, thereby improving public safety, navigation, and delivery accuracy.
Thank you for that. Councillor Steele, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two notices of motion. Take notice that at a future meeting of Halifax Regional Council, I propose to move amendments to bylaw U100 respecting user charges, the purpose of which is to implement approved transit fare increases, incorporate related program adjustments, and support the rollout of new payment technology. And the second one is take notice that at a future meeting of Halifax Regional Council, I intend to move a motion to amend Administrative Order 1 respecting the procedures of the Council. The purpose of the amendment is to include an affirmation acknowledging the historic and ongoing contributions of African Nova Scotians to Mi'kma'ki, to the order of business for the Halifax Regional Council, the community councils, and committees of council. Thank you.
So noted. Thank you. Councillor Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Take notice that at a future meeting of the Halifax Regional Council, I intend to propose the repeal of Administrative Order 2014-018-ADM respecting grants to volunteer ground search and rescue EMO organizations, the purpose of which is to remove the existing grants framework for volunteer ground search and rescue and EMO organizations.
So noted. Thank you. Any others? Last call? Not seeing any others. Is there a motion to adjourn? Councillor Gillis, quick with the hand. Very good. Okay, colleagues, thank you for a good day. Enjoy your evening.
one of the best parts about where